So, what do you do if you have IRS backed tax debt and you can't pay your state or your tax bill? Look, in this video, I'm going to share with you what you can do if you have back tax problems and how to keep the IRS from making your life a living hell. Hey, I'm Abong Eka. I'm a CPA in Washington, D.C. area, and I run Economics Tax Relief, where we help individuals and business owners get right with the IRS, settle their tax debts for less than what they owe, and actually get their life back on track so they don't get into trouble. Now, in this video, I'm gonna go deep and give you guys some information as you're watching this. Now, if you can't pay the IRS or your state tax bill, I'm going to go over 4 things that the IRS or state can do to make your life a living hell, but I'm also going to give you some advice as to what to do and how to handle it. Now, you may be in a situation where you get letters from the IRS, like this one right here, Notice of Intent to Levy. Now, the thing about Notice of Intent to Levy is it means you've been ignoring the letters, and it can be a problem for a lot of taxpayers in the United States and also even Canada. But with the right situation and the right process, you have the ability to not only take control of your tax debt, but stop the IRS or the state from doing things to either keep you from having money in your account and having your money and worrying about what can actually happen. Now, I want to be very quick through this so I'm not boring you with details, but I want to give you an overview of what to expect. Now, the title of the video is what you can do if you can't pay your tax bill. And one more thing, if you stay to the end of this video, I'm also going to give you access to everything I'm saying. I put it together in a guide. So right now, what I'm going through right now is I'm giving you the training, the teaching of the guide, and I'll be able to just at the end just tell me where to send you the guide, and I can send you an email. I can have it emailed to you. Okay, that's what I'm going through right now. So the first is, what if I can't pay my tax bill? Makes perfect sense. Taxes are mandatory, right? Regardless of what you think politically, whether you think it's a ripoff or the government, any of that stuff, it's just beside the point. Don't listen to those people that you're seeing on television telling you about these tax schemes and scams and all that kind of stuff, who are telling you that you don't have to pay. It's not in the Constitution. Who cares? Because at the end of the day, that may or may not be a real argument, but you know what is real? Going to prison. So don't avoid those things. But if you're in a situation where you can't afford to pay, and you can't pay on time, or maybe you don't have the actual cash or the money, one of the things that the IRS can do to make your life a living hell is that it can actually issue a wage garnishment. Now, some of you watching may have gone through that before, maybe not. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you haven't, you don't want to. Wage garnishment basically means is you haven't been speaking to the IRS or being in communication with them, and so they go to your employer, they find out where you work, which is possible because your employer sends a W-2, right, to you. The employer also sends a copy of the W-2 to the IRS. So the IRS gets the W-2 and says, oh, Jane Doe, she lives such and such a year. She's not paying she didn't pay her taxes. They coordinate, they find out with the payroll division. And guess what happens next? They find out where you work, and then they go to the employer and put it in order to take money out of your paycheck before you even get a hand on it. So they can garnish your wages or your paycheck if you owe money if you owe back taxes to the IRS. Now, the other thing they can do is they can do bank levies. Now, a bank levy is a fancy word of the IRS taking money out of your bank account. That can happen, again, the same way. As you may know, the Patriot Act and other different laws out there when it comes to transfers of money, the IRS or the Treasury Department may or may not know where you bank. And the minute they know the bank that you operate out of, maybe you make payments from your bank, they can actually put it in order to take the money out of your account. Now, the problem with this is very simple. If you're in a situation where, say, you owe $10,000, right, or $20,000, or whatever, and you have $20,000 in your bank account, but you need it to pay your bills, to pay your mortgage, to pay your car note, to live your life, to take care of your spouse and your children, whatever it is. And if it's in your bank account and the IRS knows it's in your bank account, guess what they can do? They're not going to ask you, can we take the money because we know you have bills to pay? They're going to just take the money. So that's the reason why you want to avoid that. But let me give you some specifics with this. They can take the money directly from your bank account via bank levies. And when the levies on a bank account, the IRS provides 21-day waiting period for complying with the levies. So the waiting period is intended to allow you time to contact the IRS to arrange payment of the tax. If you avoid the 21 days and you ignore everything that they're sending to you, guess what happens next? They take the money out of your account, right? That's number 2. So the moral of the story is don't ignore. the IRS letters. Here's a third thing they can do to make your life a living hell. They can put liens on your property. Now, if you're familiar with liens in general, liens, if you looked at a credit report before, liens are whoever the organization is, government or business, whatever, they say you owe them money, they go to court, they file a judgment against you, and then what ends up happening next is the lien gets attached to property. So it could be your home, right? It could be your car or other property that you own. Maybe you have rental real estate that can be attached as well. The IRS can put liens, and here's what happens. Federal liens are public knowledge, okay? All you need, in most places, they usually, it's a searchable database. Most people can find it. Which is kind of embarrassing for a lot of people, something you don't really want to have happen. The other thing they can do is they have claim to your property. So if you sell it, because there's a lien attached, you're required to pay whatever you owe as a result of that. So if it's your home and you say you have $20,000 in equity and you sell your home and I get $20,000, guess what? You owe $20,000 to the IRS, you're not getting the money. When you go to closing, it goes to the IRS. So you want to avoid all this. Your financial assets, your personal assets, even your home, anything that you have that's property-wise that can be attached, which is a fancy word of having a lien put on something. You want to avoid those things, and there are ways to do that. At the end, we'll talk a little bit more about that. The federal tax lien exists after the IRS puts balance due on the books, where they assess your liability, and then they send you a bill explaining how much you owe, and then they'll demand payment. That's kind of like a notice of intent to levy. Sometimes you see this in letters that end up coming like this. It could be a CP90, which is the type of letter. So lots of letters like this that are sent on a regular basis. But here's the thing: if you neglect and willfully neglect fully payment of the debt at the time, they can file a public document called the Notice of Federal Tax Lien to alert all your creditors that the government has a legal right to your property. So again, if you have a car and you have a note on the car, and the IRS knows that you have a note on the car, guess what they can do? They'll tell the Mercedes financing company that, hey, by the way, we have a federal tax lien, and we're gonna slide into the lien on the car or slide into the lien on the house. And if you're in a situation where you want to sell any of these things or get out of it, the lien follows you. And there are people that I've talked to right now who have had liens for over a decade because the amount of money they owed was so much, and all the fines and the penalties and the interest kind of compounded it. You know how you can compound interest for investments? Same thing happens for when you owe debt. School loans, federal tax loans, it become a nightmare, right? So that's one of the things they can also do. The last thing they can do is they can take up to 15% of your Social Security benefits if you owe back taxes. So if you're at a certain age, 60, 65, 67, whatever that age is at the time, they can take up to 15% from your Social Security benefits. Now, many people at that age are on a fixed income because they're no longer working. They're starting to retire. Maybe they've set their budget for how they want to live. The problem then becomes imagine if you're expecting to get $1,000 every paycheck, and now that $1,000 becomes $850. That could be a utility bill. That can be a cell phone bill. That can be water. That could be a whole bunch of different things that you're out of because you didn't arrange a way to mitigate them from taking money from your Social Security. That's something they can actually do. Again, if you ignore them, if you don't have a plan, and if you don't know the process to deal with the IRS, okay? The other thing they can do is the thing that you can do in general is there are a bunch of things you can do in general. But before I go there, I want to revisit everything we talked about. So the first thing that the IRS can go after, again, we talked about that, is wage garnishments. Number one, right? IRS comes in, takes your money from your paycheck. You get less every pay period, every 2 weeks. Nightmare. Number two, bank levy. Take money out of your bank accounts. They do that automatically. Everything can be gone. I've seen people who've had all of their money in their accounts wiped out because of a bank levy. IRS tax lien. They can put liens on your property, like your home, your car, anything that you own that has credit attached to it. They alert the creditors, tell them that they're going to be ahead of them in position, take money out of that. Other than they can do, like I said earlier, is they can take up to 15% of your Social Security benefits. I can't tell you how infuriating that could be for so many people. But again, you can avoid those things if you know the right process, if you know exactly what to do in order to handle it, and you have the right representation to handle that for you and to get everything set in place. So there's some things you can do in order to mitigate, to avoid all those things from happening. The one is you can negotiate with the IRS to pay less than what you owe. Now, only if you qualify. That's something that you have to discuss because everybody's different. It's not a matter of who you are, where you live, how much you owe, none of those things. You can do something like an offer and compromise where you settle your tax debt for less than what you owe, and there's certain criteria you have to go through. You can create an installment agreement, right? Well, the reality is if you don't do this correctly using the IRS's process, if you don't know the process, the revenue agents can reject your offer and compromise. Sometimes they'll accept your installment agreement. It just depends. Who are you talking to? How are you arranging these? How are you making these arrangements? Are you following the process? The IRS agents are required by law to follow a process that a lot of people don't know about. And so what ends up happening is you're saying all these things and you don't know what they're following, right? I had a client call once, actually about 7 days, a week ago. He had an audit, and he didn't talk to me before the audit. He called me after, and he sent all this information, and he opened up another can of worms as a result of that. If you're in a situation with an audit, an IRS audit, you have to understand what they're asking for and why they want what they want, and then how to put the information together so it makes sense. So that's why audits are challenging. Audits for so many people literally open up a can of worms, bad worms that literally eat all the money in your bank account. So if you're not careful, that can be also a problem as well. Now here's another thing. How do I stop the IRS collections efforts like wage garnishments and bank levies? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to talk to the IRS. You have to respond to the letters and the notices. But it's not enough that you respond, it's how you respond that actually matters. And that's where it's kind of different. So, the right strategy can actually lower your taxes due and even lead to removing fines and penalties. There's actual options. There are options for that. There are processes that we can use, that we have used in the past, to get penalties lowered and to get actually penalties removed. And people have that opportunity if they know exactly what to ask for. The IRS is not going to tell you, hey, by the way, you can remove these penalties. They're not going to do that. Many times they won't. And if they do tell you that, they don't know exactly how and why. So that's the thing. That's the thing to understand. Now, if you want, I gave you a quick synopsis of the guide. If you wanted this guide yourself, right? Depending where you're seeing this video, you should see a link somewhere here that'll just tell me where to send it. I'll be able to get the link, and then you just put in your email address, and you have to tell me where I can send it to you. It makes it easier than I can put it on Facebook or YouTube, whatever. So you got to tell me where to send it to you on that particular page, and I'll give you the guide. It's only a 5-page guide that explains everything I just shared with you tonight and today. And it'll give you maybe some comfort in knowing that whatever problem you have, however much you owe to the IRS, there's a way to fix it and deal with it. You don't have to do this alone, right? And at the end of all that, if you have any other questions, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a free 30-minute consultation or conversation with me. 30 minutes, I'll answer all your questions, tell you what's going on. I can ask you what's going on with you, what you think you need, and then I'll tell you what the next course of action probably should be. And if you know what to do, then you have the right information, your life tends to get better. Sound good? Now, if you have any questions, put them below. If you want to know exactly how to get the free 30-minute conversation with me, there should be a link somewhere here. Click that too, do the same thing, put it below, and we'll talk, we'll schedule it, we'll have a conversation, I'll answer your questions, and hopefully give you the peace of mind you deserve. You don't have to be worried about the IRS and fearful. With the right representation and the right information, you too can get the life that you want and get this all behind you so you can live the life that you deserve. Sound good? Click the link. Don't wait. Again, you keep putting it off. You're going to keep getting letters like these. And letters like these don't end well for a lot of people. So I want that to end well for you. So tell me how I can help you. Click the link, schedule a time, let's have a conversation, and look forward to talking to you soon.